end of his presidency. What's your response to what Lindsey Graham said?
Yeah, as White House counsel Ty Cobb said earlier this week, the White House yet again confirms that the president is not considering or discussing the firing of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Bless you.
Losing Republicans in the sense,
Sorry?
do you feel like you're losing Republicans in some way, that these two prominent Republicans from South Carolina both spoke in this manner over the weekend?
I certainly don't think we're losing Republicans at all. I think we're voicing some frustration over this ongoing process that we look forward to ending soon. Pamela.
In January, the president told a room full of reporters that he would love to sit down and do an interview with Robert Mueller under oath, and in just a couple of weeks at the time, that's what he said. Obviously, that time frame has passed. Does he still want to sit down and do an interview with Robert Mueller?
Look, we've been fully transparent throughout this process. We've been fully cooperative, and we're going to continue to be cooperative with the Office of Special Counsel. Beyond that, I can't go any further.
Can you just provide more clarity on the president's tweets toward Robert Mueller over the weekend, calling him out by name? What was behind that?
Like I just said, clearly we have not been shy about the fact that there is frustration of this process. We would like it to end quickly and soon, and the president has contended since day one and will continue to do so that there was absolutely no collusion between his campaign and any outside force or country. And so I don't understand why it's hard for anyone to process. If you had been attacked mercilessly and continuously, day in, day out, every single second, while you're trying to work hard to do good things for this country, and literally every day you wake up to an onslaught of people saying that you're there because of reasons that are completely false, that's frustrating, and certainly I think fair for him to be frustrated.
Why doesn't he push for the firing of Robert Mueller if he thinks the probe shouldn't have begun in the first place? If he thinks the whole thing is a witch hunt, why doesn't he push for the firing?
Look, we're going to continue to be cooperative, and we would like this to wrap up soon. We don't feel like that's the most productive step forward, but we would like to see this come to a conclusion. Jordan.
Thanks, Sarah. I want to follow up on the accusations of fraud in the Russian election. Why does the United States government not believe that it should criticize Russia for these accusations, which have been brought up by the OSCE and UK government directly in the statement? You know, they're listing things like restrictions on fundamental freedoms and lack of access for opposition candidates. I mean, why doesn't the president of the White House believe that's something that they should be discussing with the Russian leader?
I didn't say that we couldn't discuss it with the Russian leader. I said it didn't come up on today's call. Again, the focus was to talk about areas of shared interest. We know that we need to continue a dialogue. It's important for a lot of the safety and security of people across the globe. We would like to be able to work with them on things like North Korea, on Iran, and also both countries shared interest in lowering the tensions when it comes to an arms race, recognizing that that's not the best thing for either country. And so we want to be able to have those conversations, and that was the point of today's call.
So
John?
When's an appropriate time to raise questions about, you know, political freedoms with Russia?
Look, we've continued to talk about these important issues, but that's not simply what today's call was about. John?
Thank you, Sarah. Two questions. First, we've discussed the president's call to President Putin following his re-election. Did the president make a similar call to Chancellor Angela Merkel, who has just formed a new government and assumed her fourth mandate in Berlin?
I know he spoke with the chancellor, I believe it was last week. I'd have to look back at the specific details of their conversation, but I know that they spoke within the last week.
The other thing is that Congressman Ryan Costello of Pennsylvania is expected, if not today, sometime in the coming weeks, to announce he's not running for re-election, making him the 38th Republican House member to announce retirement, resignation, or pursuit of another office, a post-World War II high in the exodus of Republican House members. Is this something the president is bothered about, and do members call him when they say he'll make announcements like this?
Certainly he's had conversations with a number of members. I can't speak to this situation specifically and whether or not he's spoken with the president. We're not concerned right now. We think we've got a great story to tell after the first year of being in office, and we look forward to communicating that to the American people and continuing to push the president's agenda. David?
Sarah, did the topic of religious liberty come up at all with the Crown Prince today? Did the president bring that up at all? Do you know?
I don't believe that came up, but I'd have to check on the last half of the meeting to be sure, because I wasn't there. Trey?
Thanks, Sarah. Two foreign policy questions for you. Human Rights Watch estimates that the Saudi-led coalition is responsible in 2017 for the deaths of 1,000 civilians and took part in 85 unlawful airstrikes. Did the president bring up these concerns about high civilian casualties in his meeting with the Crown Prince today?
I'm not aware that that came up specifically. Again, I'd have to check on the last half of the meeting because I'm not sure.
About the call between President Trump and Russian President Putin. The Russians said that Syria came up in the call. The readout that was released by the Trump administration did not include any mention of Syria. Did the president discuss the issue of Syria with Vladimir Putin, and did he discuss the high civilian casualties as a result of efforts by the Assad regime and the Russian government on the ground in Syria?
It briefly came up, and as you know, we've had a number of public statements on our position there, and that certainly has not changed.
Yesterday, the Canadian Prime Minister noticed the signs of the pace of NAFTA talks is accelerating, and he said that President Trump, is enthusiastic about getting a deal. Is the president that enthusiastic?
The president's always enthusiastic about making a good deal, but that would be the key caveat to any conversation is making sure that whatever deal he makes is good for Americans and American workers. And so anything we do, that would have to be part of that conversation.
There seems to be a end of April deadline. After that, the entire political process is going to get over the negotiations on NAFTA. Anything possible be that quick within 6 weeks?
I don't have any specific announcement that's at this time, but we're continuing to have those negotiations and continuing to have those conversations being led primarily by Ambassador Lighthizer and working with the president. Take one last question for the president's event. Jonathan?
Thank you, Sarah. The president frequently speaks about the need to improve the nation's crumbling infrastructure. Can you explain his opposition to the Gateway project, which is a rail tunnel between New Jersey and his home state of New York that has the support of many Republicans and also, according to one study, is key to 20% of the nation's gross national product?
The president specifically wants to address infrastructure on a broader scale, not put all our emphasis into one project. We certainly want to see the infrastructure across this country rebuilt, which is why we put forward priorities when it comes to that in a plan moving forward, and we look forward to working with Congress to make some real progress on that in the coming days. Thanks so much, and the president's got an event here in just a few minutes. Thanks, guys.
Well, we missed yeah. 17. 17. Yeah.